So guys, today's life diaries is going to be about relationships and why relationships fail. I'm going to give you some reasons so you can understand what you might be doing wrong and successful relationships are not going well. First and foremost, trust issues. Trust issues is important because if there is no trust or the other person does not trust you, forget it. Another thing is lying. If you're a type of person that lies, you lose all your credibility. So it's prone for relationships failure. What type of person are you? Are you a possessive type of person? How do you treat your partner? Are you quite jealous as a person? Observe yourself and see your tendencies on how it is that you're behaving. What about, are you loyal to your partner or are you prone to infidelity? Are you a credible person? Do you have credibility? You need to be thinking about these things. And how about your communication? Are you a poor communicator? Do you have a difficult time expressing communication? Can you say what it is that on your mind to the other person? Or are you always perhaps getting angry with the other person and cannot discuss? What type of listening skills do you have? Are you always seem to butt in the middle and not allow people to talk and say their points of view? You need to be thinking about that. How do you work with conflicts? Are you a conflict avoidant? Do you avoid any sort of discussions with the other person? Is it difficult to you to relate to emotions? Are you avoiding something? You need to be thinking a lot about these things. What about your level of respect? Do you respect other people? Are you respectful yourself? Are you a person with integrity? What are your values in life? How do you handle things? Are you an open and truthful person? A lot of things to think about. Relationships can also be quite unsuccessful if, for example, you guys might have different life goals, right? And sometimes two people are on complete different life goals, and that might not be a compatibility with the other person. And you both need to be thinking what the goals are, because sometimes goals interferes with a lot of relationships, right? Because you need to have similar life goals. Because if you're not on the same page, it's quite difficult. So, another reason why relationships fail is if insecurity is in place. So the more insecure a person is, the more it can be damaging to the relationship. Now, it's a different kind of thing for a person to be insecure and let the other person know in order to help them to feel much better about themselves. But it's different if you're bringing your insecurities down to the table. That can be a relationship killer, right? Another thing that's very important, if you are lacking intimacy within the relationship and there's not enough in the relationship, that can kill a relationship. So it's important to ask yourself, why have you stopped being intimate with your partner? What is the problem? When did it begin? Are you using it as a means of avoiding perhaps other things in your life that are troubling you, and you're avoiding being not being intimate with your partner? Because sex, believe it or not, is very important in relationships. Very, very important. And not only sex, we also need physical intimacy in relationships. So that might include being able to hug the person, being able to kiss the person, being able to touch, affection, and all of those different things. Because a person receives recognition from that, right? And it makes everybody loves all those kind of things. Even people that are avoidant, believe it or not. Because deep inside, a person that does not want the touchy feeling or the emotions is hidden inside of them. They're wanting all of these things, but sometimes it might say it's too much for me to bear, right? Too much for me to bear is usually an emotion where the attention is quite needed. Another thing that's a killer in relationships is when a lot of people are focusing on the past, right? And I'm not referring to being able to talk about your past, but remaining in the past. So if something that has happened in the relationship, you need to be able to address the matter that bothers you, because your emotions are very, very important, but it's important not to stay there in the past, right? And another killer of relationships is when people are not able to be vulnerable. Vulnerability, believe it or not, is very, very important, because if you're not vulnerable, the other person doesn't get to see who you are, the real you. And you have to find the way to overcome this fear and be able to talk what it is that it's on your mind, right? A lot of people pretend to be other people that they're not in order to fit in. But it's crucial that you learn to be more vulnerable and express what your needs are. So another thing that's a killer in relationships is having a lot of expectations. So when you're with someone, you can't really expect a lot of things from the other person to provide you so you just feel better. Now, if there are things that are a necessity to you and it's something that's bothering you in your emotions, you need to be able to address that to the other person so they can understand where they're coming from. So if they're willing to work on that, that's a plus. But if it's something that bothers them, it's not your responsibility to make them meet your expectations. So if you see that the other person cannot meet your expectations and your expectations are quite high and you can't live with them, you've got to make the hard call about what it is that you want to do, right? Another killer for relationships is the ego, believe it or not. And ego does not help you move forward in relationships. And when it comes to ego, it's just a total wasted time. It's a total wasted time. Because why would you want to be in a relationship with someone, right, where even if you get into a fight with the other person, why wouldn't you want to make up? Why are you going to waste your time in your egoic mind when you are, in fact, want to reconcile with that person? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Another thing that can get into relationships is family, right? Believe it or not, family. So there might be members of the family that butt in with the relationships. There might be people that give their own opinions, right? And this is unacceptable, right? Both people in a relationship should not be having the influence of their family, because it has nothing to do with their family, right? Because everyone that's on a relationship, they make their own choices. And if the family does not get that, it's their problem. Because if you're in a high committed relationship with somebody, right, then the person that you are with a relationship with, they are your family right now. And just because somebody might have given you birth does not give them the right to be getting involved with your personal stuff. And it's nobody's concern. Because a lot of people out there, a lot of family members can go out and they're giving opinions. And it's quite wrong, because what do they know about your relationship? They're not the ones that are having the experiences of the relationship. So what makes them think that they can butt? And how about yourself? Have you allowed some family member to get involved in the way? Have you? Why aren't you having your own opinion about things? Why do you need to be validated by external forces? Why? So, and this also applies not only to family, but also to friends. What type of friends are you surrounding yourself with? Who are the types of people that are giving you advice about your relationship, right? How good are those people you call your friends that are giving you advice? How well are they in the relationships? Are they healthy to be giving you an advice? Do they know anything about psychology? Do they know anything about the human psyche? Do they have any bloody idea? How is their past with relationships? Are they full of traumas and problems? Are they an inspirational person that you can go to and get advice that is going to give you grounded and valuable advice for the evolution of yourself? So you need to be careful who you're getting advice from, because not everybody out there can give you a great advice. And it's important because people become influenced and they become conditioned by the people around them. And if you are not able to understand that, you're in for a loop. And it's important to not let external things come into the way for your relationships. Now, another break dealer is if you have compatibility issues. So there's people out there that are dating that are not at all compatible. And it's so important to be with somebody that you have something that you're compatible with. Because if you don't, what's going to happen there? You need to relate in some way, right? Now, another thing, believe it or not, that is a break of a relationship is that some people in the relationship, they might be suffering from narcissism. So you might have got accustomed to a person that looks logical, but there might be some forms of narcissism, and that can end and break a relationship and make relationship problems. Because you need to understand that a healthy relationship has two healthy individuals. It cannot work if there is a dysfunctional person within the relationship. So if you decide to keep a dysfunctional person in your life, that's not going to have a great outcome. And you're just procrastinating. You're just procrastinating. And it's important to choose healthy. And if you're not in healthy and there is a chance that the other person can become healthy, perhaps going through therapy, but perhaps doing some counseling, I highly recommend that. But if you believe that you tried your best at your best abilities and you've left your ego aside, and you've been empathetic and you've been understanding and you've been trying to help the other person, and you're seeing that there's no progress to that, you need to motherfucking run. Because half the population out there is not doing all right. They're dysfunctional. And a lot of relationships out there, not at all healthy, right? And in order for you to know what healthy is, you need to have a knowledge about what healthy is, right? How were your relationships in your past? Did you have healthy relationships? Did you ever have an amazing relationship? What are the patterns of the relationships? What are the patterns of the relationships? Very important to sit down and think about the patterns. Who were the types of people you were involved with in the past? Have you learned from that? Were the people abusive? Were they narcissistic, as I said before? Were they sociopaths? There's 1,000 people out there that carry such destruction, and a lot of people are not able to see the signs. They're not able. And a lot of people, believe it or not, been through very, very toxic types of relationships, and they're not aware that they're toxic. And the only reason why they accept these types of relationships is usually has to come through their past. So through their family and the people and their parents, for example, if they were raised in an environment where things looked familiar, and that relationship that you're in right now has similar patterns to that, you're not able to understand that you're just repeating a pattern of your past. You're not. And you can be attracted to things that you might find attractive because that's what you are familiar with. So if something healthy comes along, you don't like that. You don't like the healthy. You'd rather go to the dysfunction because that's all that you've known, right? And you won't be able to understand, right? If you don't go to have a depth to look at yourself and to find someone to assist you, right? And learning about relationships, learning what healthy means, learning what dysfunction is, learning what functional is. It's mandatory. Now, another thing that relationships can end is if people are usually bored, right? Some people can be bored because they just don't put in the work. They've made bad mistakes in their life. They just got used to everything and they're just fucking bored. They're just fucking bored and they just decide to like end relationships because they're fucking lazy. Lazy. Relationships can end when there's no growth, right? And that's amazing. So if you see in a relationship that you don't have any growth and you're trying to head somewhere else, it's very, very ethical and correct to let go of that relationship. Because if the other person is not growing with you, you don't want to be stuck in the same place. If you've been with someone for many, many years and there's no growth and all of that, I'm sure that you're probably feeling that you just wasted a lot of precious times of your years, and perhaps you're at a phase that you're saying that it's too late. Well, it's never too late. Any age, it's never too late. The problem here that I'm going to make you ask is, what made you stop not to consider your life as important? Even whatever age it is, why aren't you taking the risk to a happier life? As many years as you're left, why are you sitting there? Why are you tolerating? Why? Did you ever think about that? So people are in misery in relationships and they just stay there. They stay there because of the kids. They stay there because, people, they feel ashamed. Or they're going to say, I'm separated. What the fuck? You still thinking about what people are saying? When it comes to the day on your deathbed, do you think people are going to fucking give a shit? People don't give a shit. But you should give a shit about yourself. You should give a shit about yourself because your life is valuable, right? And you're here to fulfill long-term happiness for yourself. You need to be happy. And trust me, the people that talk about you, they're not happy. Just people are so bored with their lives that they don't know what to do. That's why they talk about other people. So is that the person you want to be? To settle with your life? You just want to wake up one day and be miserable and unhappy? Is that what you want? Is that why you're here in life? Just to be like whatever? You really need to think about your life. Rethink. Because life is beautiful. Life is beautiful. And the better you get, the better outcomes come to you. How is your mindset? Now, another reason why people fail in relationships, as we know, is money. Money can be a big breaker in relationships. Money problems are a big deal. And sometimes people get married for the wrong reasons. There's some people out there that maybe they've been raised in poverty or not having enough money or a lack mindset of that. So they might be attempting to choose a person that is quite financially abundant, and they can get ahead in those types of relationships. But what may happen to them in the end, they might understand that perhaps their emotional needs are not going to be met. So they might understand that money isn't the root of their happiness at the end of the day. And they end up being miserable. And a lot of rich people out there have so much abundance of money, yet they're so miserable. Yeah. Money is amazing. Don't get me wrong. I love money. Money is so good. I have a good relationship with money. Yeah? But if I wouldn't be a content person, right? And I had money, I don't think I would just be focused on money, right? I would just be focused on money. And what was money how many times are you gonna go spend your money? You can buy, think about it. If you had a day, right, to have all those millions, billions, whatever you want to say, thousands, right? So you had a day of your life and they told you could buy whatever you want. All right, go get that house. Do you want to build a mansion? Go build a mansion. Do you want to set up your business? You want to buy a car? What, you want to go buy a Lamborghini? Go buy that fucking Lamborghini. Imagine you get it. You get it. You can get anything you want. You can go shop everywhere. Get your Balenciagas, your Gucci's, anything. Get it. I assure you, once you get those things, it's just whatever. It's just a common thing. It's nothing. It's just a material object. Once you get that, that drive is going to go away. Once you have everything, that drive is going to go away. So even if you can afford to buy your own island, it's still not going to give you pleasure. It's still not going to give you pleasure, right? What is going to give you pleasure, though, is if you do have all of that abundance, so you can buy that island, or you can buy all that jet. I'm over-exaggerating, but it's truth. That's the way I talk, right? But if you do have the money, plus if you do have the mindset, and you're evolved as a person, and you know where you're heading, and you have a happy, emotional life, well, that is a fucking game changer. That is a game changer, because that's when you reach the bliss of life. And unfortunately, very few people manage to go there. Very, very few people. And I'll tell you why. Because it's not for everybody. Not everybody's willing to do the work. People just want to sit back and just get it. Just like that. Without doing shit. Without doing shit. And they think they've got the right to it. Right? They think they have the right to it. Well, let me wake you up. Nobody's got the right to anything. You need to work in your life. And life, right, is not easy. We all go through shit in this life. But some of us choose to not fall down in life and to always get up and to do things with our life and to become someone, right? And it's not coming from the egoic mind. And to be a great person, you have to invest in yourself. It's important, and I always talk about self-improvement. It's mandatory. And if you think you know who you are, you don't know who you are, right? A lot of people don't know who they are. And you need to go find out who you are and what your limited beliefs are, because a lot of people have limited beliefs. I've been working for 1,000 years on this path. 1,000 years that I've been working on this path. And I'm still working every fucking single day, and I learn new things. And I believe I probably read a lot more things than you guys did. So take my advice. It might sound like a cuckoo to you, who the fuck does she think she is? Well, I know who I am. And I can assist a lot of people, because I already did. And I highly recommend, if you're building, because we're talking about relationships now, take into consideration all the things that I said. Because even if you think you can just be jumping into relationships, if you don't get to work on yourself and your bullshit and the stuff that you project out there, right? And the fucking victims and the fucking fear-based mentality, right? You're up for failure. You're up for failure. And this is what I gotta tell you. Because you need to work. You need to motherfucking work. Stop complaining. Stop comparing to other people. Stop it. Take the fucking bull by the horns, right? And there's no such thing as I can't. There's no such thing as I can't, right? What there is, for the person that says I can't, is a person that is lazy, that doesn't want to do something about it. That's what it is. Because they're too focused on other fucking bullshit in their life. Because they're fucking shallow, right? They're fucking shallow. Because nobody wants to do the work, right? There's very few people that want to do the work. So, do the work and shut the fuck up.